Welcome back to Chris in Retro. This video is going to be talk about warriors and what it means. I think there's a lot of cliche around being a warrior. We use it a lot. But do we actually really think about what it means to be a warrior? And what I want to do is spend some time today to really consider um, all aspects of it. Well, many aspects of what how we view warriors, where we apply that mindset, and where it can be. I want to frame it in a way that's more realistic and how it can be beneficial to those in recovery. It doesn't matter if it's movies or conversations, any number of attributes. A warrior has a connotation for us that makes us think of the strong fighter, the person that in movies it's always the Thor type image, the person that can just wipe out everybody and just stand strong in the end, and only a baffling evil nemesis can even provide them any like fight at all. And I think that's a dangerous thing because what it does, it tells us that you don't have that warrior spirit in you, and you don't have that in you if you're not that invincible. And being a warrior has nothing to do with invincibility. In fact, right now what I'll do is I'll share a definition that I found real quickly just to illustrate the point. A warrior is considered a brave or experienced soldier or fighter, the warrior heroes of ancient Greece. The second definition I thought was kind of funny. Uh, Apparently, it's a standing pose in yoga. So, for the purpose of this video, we're not so much concerned about standing poses in yoga as we are um, the idea of this soldier, this beast of a being, and this person that can't be beat and that won't be beat, and has all these just baffling skills that make them so much better than everybody else. And what I want to do in this video is start to make this more of a realistic and beneficial mindset. I've got some illustrations here of how we see warriors, and I'll remove myself from the screen. But I mean, there's any number of things here. We got kind of the medieval stuff. We've got the 300, um, obviously movies, very Viking like. But we see these warriors, and if you see them all, they're just come and get me. Bruce Lee here is going to come and get you. And you get the point. Everything is all these just things that we can't be apparently, um, and even in the one place that we will make a connotation that's more injurious is in the combat sport arena. But again, in combat sports, you're in the same situation. It's an equal foe that has equal skills, and we come to that understanding that that kind of a warrior always has an opponent that's worthy of that fight. But in all these other illustrations, we're showing an unscathed, shield and helmet, and here with a sword ablaze. I mean, these guys are just absolutely tough and scary and all this other stuff. And they're ones. I mean, how could we ever, you know, even close to consider ourselves a warrior if that's what a warrior is? You think of our soldiers. A soldier in combat, of course, they're warriors. But if you look at the reality of what they're doing, it's none of that other stuff that we just showed pictures of. The reason I bring this up is that as we think of warrior spirit and especially in addiction or mental health issues, no question about it, it's a fight. Now, I'm not suggesting it's the same as what a soldier would face in a blacked out house, with certain death for somebody pending, or if you walk into a cage and you're fighting, and the notion of that type of warrior doesn't necessarily have certain death, but injury is very much there, even in winning. But I still think that when we consider ourselves, if for many people in the recovery community, they said be a warrior, well, they can't. And many times when you're first coming back out of addiction, you can barely fight to just keep your schedule together. Nonetheless, how are you ever going to be a warrior? This image that we have in our head. And I think the important point as I get into some of this stuff is that warriors, a true warrior that truly goes into the fight and goes through a fight, never comes out unscathed. If it's either mental health issues or injuries to their body or permanent maiming or in some cases death, a warrior in the ways that we normally think about it has all kinds of possibilities for harm. And while they may come out victorious, and with that comes all the nobility that we associate with it, it doesn't necessarily leave them with a really good situation on the other side if they've faced injury. So why am I bringing up warrior when it comes to addiction if it's not realistic? Well, I would say that it absolutely is realistic, but we've got to consider it rather than a image of what a warrior, what somebody else might be. It's really a mindset, and the mindset is your willingness to go to engage in the fight, and your willingness to go to any length to make sure that you win. Now, there's an individual that may or may not be watching this video at this point in time. I was reached out to through Facebook for somebody that was a actual warrior in our U.S. military, served in combat, and as a result of his prescriptions is struggling with addiction. And that person was absolutely a warrior for the United States of America and for our flag. He has received felt those injuries on the other side and is now dealing with them for a life and has now found himself addicted to prescription medication. Um, so now, in the next few days or today, perhaps, is going into treatment. And I was reached out to through Facebook through somebody that I used to work with in a hospital, and we connected many years ago, and was asking for some advice on what I had, what I could offer relative to treatment providers in the area that are authentic and that are committed to their clients more so than others. And that came out of my rant against Barrington, and I'm glad that conversation led to a more effective outcome for an individual, or at least an option for effective outcome. But when we think of warriors, I certainly think of this individual as a warrior, having served this country. But it's still how can you and I, who did not serve the country, or in my case, it wasn't. I did fight in a cage, but maybe you haven't had a real outward demonstration of your willingness to go to war. Um, it still doesn't mean that you can't have that mindset. It really is a mindset. It's less about your are you the toughest one out there. It's that you will. My dad gave me a compliment. I think I mentioned on the show before that meant an awful lot to me. And he was talking. He's not a big Donald Trump. He's not a huge Donald Trump fan. He likes him better than some other options, but he's not really a Donald Trump fan as a man. My dad doesn't like cocky people, and it really annoys him. But he made a comment to me that was kind of funny for some to hear it, but for me, I took it as a compliment, knowing it was coming from him. He said there's two people that he's seen that there's only two people he's ever known in his life that face fear head on, in unique ways, and I meant it, and that I will. He said myself and Donald Trump. He said you guys don't care what's going on around you, you'll go through it. Now I find that interesting because fear is one of my biggest triggers, but it's I hate fear so much that I want to get through it as fast as possible. So I know if I've learned over experience that if I stay here in front of whatever I'm afraid of, it's just going to keep beating me up, and I hate it. I'm afraid, and I have these problems. So I just say, okay, well, I'm just going to cover my ears, plug my nose, and dive in. And so a warrior mindset, you don't necessarily have to have a combat experience or even be trained in a combative way to have a warrior mindset. And you certainly don't have to go through whatever battle you're facing unscathed. In fact, you will have injury. A battle, if it's significant enough that you needed a warrior mindset to get through it, then you can bet it's going to be a substantial fight. Those of us in addiction, the tentacles of addiction are to I unless you've been involved in it, it's hard to explain. But for those that love somebody that's going through a struggle in addiction, those that are in the addiction, the legal systems, the treatment provider, I mean, all of it, it's a tremendous battle to get one okay. Nonetheless, all that comes through the doors and continue to use or in worst case pass. Um, I think that there are, from the true sense of being a warrior and actually going to battle with an entity of some kind. I'm not suggesting that addicts should be out fighting everybody, or if you have an addiction situation or a mental health situation or a struggle in your life, I don't think you should be out there picking fights with everybody. I'm not suggesting that at all. But to me, a warrior mindset says, look, I'm going to make sure that I have all of the training that I need. I'm going to ensure that I get all the resources that I need, and I'm going to go attack this situation that I have in my life, get through it, get beyond it, and have hope. And my hope is knowing that the training that I'm receiving to get ready for this makes me fit to fight, makes me ready to go. And if I'm not okay, well, I'm in the middle of it. This is where you surround yourself with a team. Cage fighters, y'all have a corner, you've been training for weeks. Military personnel, hours and hours and hours of training to get ready. Short of the movies where you're some kind of like spawn of a god somewhere, most people that are in a actual physical warrior type situation or even an athlete of any kind, you've gone through a lot of training ahead of time. That is exactly the same thing with addiction. A lot of these meetings and things that we go to, groups, stuff like that, make sure you're participating. It's all your training for the battle that you're going to go through to get the life you want. Now, what's tough to understand is that even though you've been through a lot to get there, you're going to go through a lot to get there. So you've been through a lot there, and you're going to go through a lot to get there, and that's just kind of how it goes. And there's no avoiding it. So knowing that there's no avoiding it, if I want it and I face it with the reality that it is, the mindset that says I will fight and I will go forward and I will seize the future that's there for me. That is the warrior spirit that I'm suggesting. And what I wanted today is to make sure that I framed it in such a way that we don't feel like it's unattainable, because it certainly is. And the nice thing about it with addiction community, and the most important thing about it, candidly, I'll give an example shortly, is that many days you're going to be tired and you cannot do it alone. Having a warrior mindset does not mean that every single day you wake up strong, take your protein powders, and go out. You're ready to go. You're stretching out. You're ready to go fight. It's not like that. There's a lot of days when you're just beaten down. Your stamina's gone. And you don't know what to do. I had a situation this week that just was like, man, we've been going through so freaking much. And then I had another situation come up that put some fear in my life about some other things that we have going on. And it just was like, man, it was just one too many. I just couldn't take it. So I reached out to my sponsor and just said, look, I'm struggling. And we had a great conversation. And what I love about my sponsor is I can say, I hear you and I know it worked for you, but I'm not buying it. But the other part that I got to talk to you about is that part of being a warrior is understanding something bigger than you has to be a part of it. This is why this higher power thing is so important. Why I call on God in that space is because in this conversation I had with my sponsor, God was very present in our conversation. Now, we're not Bible thumpers and evangelists or anything like that, but we also understand the power of a deity that goes beyond our ego and helps us in our decisions that we can find ourselves in. So we were talking about some stuff, and we're working on some side projects, and I got into a little bit of that. He was relating some of his own personal experiences to help me as I manage through things. And one of the big things we were talking about is I have a tendency to be a doer. My own mental health counselor and others talk to me about this all the time. If you give me a problem, I want to try to figure out how to solve it and go forward. And that's a good thing in many cases, because a lot of times that progress gives me hope too. Progress, I believe, is a massively important part of recovery to give us little wins along the way. But still, what happens is that you can't solve every problem, and many things really just need to be left on the table and let the answer come to you. And boy, do I have a hard time with that. Well, we were to just illustrate how being a warrior can take on different elements within recovery versus some of these other examples I gave. Was I still a warrior on my weakest day for my recovery? Yes. Yes. My mindset is to go fight and go win. I'm probably more aggressive about it than most, but I'll fight. I'm willing to fight all the time, because it on the other side are the things that I want more than anything. But the challenge comes. It's a long fight, and a lot of times you feel like you're just starting all over again with certain things that come in by the way that you process things in your head. And so we got talking about our side project and stuff, and the subject of Jelly Roll came up, and we were talking about some of his music and how the lyrics are just incredibly like impactful. So this is where the spiritual piece comes in. So we're talking about Jelly Roll, and um, we had a we had a good conversation. He kind of got my head back straight to where at least I was willing to accept my situation as it was and not as I'd have it be, and I truly did accept that. I also accepted his uh, ability to travel with me in this journey and help me continue to have the fight in me that I needed for that 24 hours to not only stay sober but to live a life that was meaningful. So we'll pause with that, but as we talked about Jelly Roll. Now, roughly 2 days before, I had reposted a testimony that Jelly Roll had given, a clip of one that he'd given to Senate committee, I forget, on opiate, I think it was on the opioid or overdose. And he was saying that there's nothing more hopeful than walking in a room full of people in recovery, and how it makes him. And he was thinking, just kind of talking about when he was so sick in his addiction. And this video I posted, I thought was impactful the way he words. I find him generally pretty impactful for the recovery world, and actually those that struggle with mental health, more importantly. And I had posted that through all of my social media platforms, with the exception, actually, it was on YouTube because it was a clip from a YouTube channel, a video that I'd made a while back. And um, so we hang up on this call with my sponsor in the morning. All of a sudden, probably midway through the afternoon, I get a text message from a woman that used to work for me, and her husband had a addiction to pills, and he had kicked his addiction to pills with her help, and now she found herself addicted to alcohol. So the text just simply said, "I'm about to make a big step today, and because of you." And I said, "Okay, well, I don't know what that was." I knew she'd gone back to college. I thought maybe she got a new job, so I sent her a message and said, "Hey, what's your big step?" Actually, I think I said something smart ass back, which is typically my way, and then I forget what I won't share because I can't remember what it was, but there was I'm generally a smart ass when I'm with people that are close to me. And then I said, "So you can tell me what this big step was?" And then several hours passed, and all of a sudden I get this text message saying, "I've decided to that I've got a problem with drinking. I'm a binge drinker, and I'm quitting. And it's impacting my life in a substantial way. And I got to this place because I rewatched the Jelly Roll video 100 times or some ridiculous times, dozens of times. Let's put it that way. So why does that matter? Well, it matters because here I was in the morning, struggling, defeated, not really seeing an awful lot. Then input my teammate, my squad member, that bolstered me as a warrior because I'd been in that warrior mindset, knowing full well that I have to implement every single day my calling and purpose. Even on a day when I was down, the work I'd done days before was paying dividends in somebody else's life. So I'm getting encouragement in the morning from my sponsor, and then in the afternoon, I'm finding out that the work that I'm doing was impacting somebody else that I care very much for, and her ability to find recovery and hope. And her husband now, as a return for his recovery, is going to help her get better too. And that was all because of Jelly Roll, who I met before he was super famous in Dulles Airport, and because of his music that means something to me before he was famous, and now it does even more so that he's been really lighting it up with some great music relative to addiction. And my talk to my sponsor, but every single day that warrior spirit was still present for me, even on the day when I felt so weak. It just needed to be re-engaged because I was tired. Now, that's my example. 2 days earlier, I was in warrior mode. I was good. I was still doing my work on the show. I was posting stuff out that I thought would be hopeful and helpful for others to make sure that they can make decisions and find that hope is closer than it appears. But yet, 2 days later, I find myself wounded on the battlefield for my own mental health and things that have thrown life at me. So I'm a warrior in the fight, and I chose to fight, but I'm still wounded. So does that make me less of a warrior? No. It just means that I build a construct around me so that when I am wounded, I can be triaged in the field and move forward. Nobody said this was going to be perfect, and nobody required me to be perfect. It's progress over perfection. And that's exactly why it is that you can confidently say that even if you aren't Thor, you can be a warrior in your recovery. Very few of us in this world, including myself, are that noble and that powerful of a warrior. We all have holes in our game, and I have many of them. And I have a lot of days when I'm down, just struggling, trying to figure out how to go forward. And that's why I built a construct around me of a squad that can help heal me when I'm, or bolster my injuries, bolster me through my injuries, and offer me stamina to stay the course and show me when I can't really see the path, possible options through their own experiences, how to move forward. What's interesting is then that was bolstered even more. So this is also the spiritual component as far as I'm concerned. That I get an inbox from somebody else and it's telling me that their brother is struggling with addiction. He's a soldier. That's the one I referred to earlier. And now he's going to be going into rehab because of the work I've been doing on Chris and Retro, and the fact that she shared some videos with him, and the fact that he'd been going on his life struggling, that she was encouraged by my journey and wanted to plug him into my journey. I'm not doing this out of ego. I'm saying that when you on a channel like this, I've said before, you kind of get frustrated when you don't really see a lot of interaction on it. And then all of a sudden I'm finding that all these people are finding sobriety because they're actually plugging into my rants here with you today. And this is all happening. All these words of encouragement are happening when I needed to hear it the most, because that morning I was super struggling. My sponsor picked me up, dusted me off, got me back on the field of battle. And these encouraging bolts from my God came in and said, "Look, I'm going to show you the work that I've called you to do and the result that's there for others so they can rise too." That and further impacted me. And so now, even with injury in the morning, that injuries have not gone away. I still struggle with them. I still have a hard time with them. But that from that morning on and right through now, I'm back in the fight. I'm back doing the things I need to do. I was before doing it too. That's why I believe in progress is really important for recovery, because you really just got to keep making some small progress when things really fall apart. And interesting to add one further layer on the jelly roll comment and the spiritual component. And I'm not saying that jelly roll is a god or anything else. I just think that God makes things super easy for me so that I can understand. I got to look it up here real quick. But he made a video, just dropped it. It's called Unpretty. If you get a chance, look up Unpretty by Jelly Roll. It just dropped, and it's showing all these lives that have gone from life of crime to life of sobriety and better living. Shout out Chad Mark. He shared that on Facebook, and I uh, I stole it, but because he was evidently encouraged by it as well. So I'm telling you this, the keys to success are make sure you've got the weapons you need for battle. And the weapons you need for battle are, your training. So if it's a recovery, your groups, your AAs and NAs and all those things, your 12-step programs, none of them in and of themselves are going to get the whole program working out for you. But accountability, either through a sponsor or a group of friends, um, honesty, truth to yourself is a weapon of war because now you face reality and you accept it for what it is and you understand it's just what it is and I can't do anything about it. So I'm gonna put my energy towards something that I can have value. And then your team, who's around you, who's your squad. We cannot isolate and make this work. And for me, my sponsor's been infinitely valuable to me. And I've had several sponsors, sort of people. I had one official sponsor, and I really liked the guy, but it just wasn't perfect for me in terms of what I need. And this one is perfect for what I need because we have aspirational conversations as well as tactical conversations relative to our recovery and our journey. And what I've found is, as we both mature in our recovery journey together, that we are learning from God has aligned that spirit, that higher power, spiritual component has aligned me and my sponsor in a way that we are almost perfectly in sync to lift each other up when the other one is down. And it's kind of like a perfect, I guess symbiosis is the right word. I'm not sure. I've never used that actually, I think, in my entire life. I think that's how it's worded. How that works is it a symbiotic relationship where it just kind of works together? That's what I'm going with it. So go with the definition. If a symbiotic relationship has some other nuance to it that makes that not work, sorry. My perception is that that's how it works. But being a warrior um, is something that is a mindset that we must have. You don't have to be, as I said, Thor or Batman or Superman or any of these fictional characters. You don't have to get a Purple Heart as a soldier. You don't have to be a soldier that has been basically put aside by society, that face battles that we've not seen, been in a field of battle and been wounded. Maybe not wounded physically, but mentally, seen loss, felt loss. And I was just told to squash it down and then been repatriated with a box of pills and a poorly operated healthcare system. That person has been put aside, and that person still can be a warrior as well. It doesn't take a uniform and it doesn't take a team assignment to be a warrior. A warrior is a mindset. It's your willingness to go to any length to get what you need out of life, and that being sobriety and all the miracles that come with it. This week has been particularly poignant. None of the challenges that put me in that situation are gone. In fact, they're all still here. But my warrior mindset has been reinvigorated because the tools and the training and the support that I have allow me to be fit to fight another day today. Now, this video was important for me to do. And I hope this is impactful to you because this is a very personal lesson that I was sorting through and context I wanted to make sure I shared because these are little nuances that we go through our journey that sometimes we miss. And this one hit me pretty hard this week to say, man, I don't have to be on a noble steed like Shrek. I have to, I just have to show up. I have to make sure I'm engaging where I need to gauge and I need to be ready to fight and have the tools to fight when the time comes. And for me in recovery and my mental health, some fights are tougher than others, but it does seem to be daily. Guys, I appreciate you a ton. I hope this video is beneficial to you. Please like and share. If there's comments that you have related to your own experiences with this, please make sure you put them in the comment section. But between now and the next time we talk, I'm going to do everything I can to stay out of trouble, and I hope you do too.